There are several stories out already about the record numbers of Black men who voted for Trump. Record numbers is literally like 18% of those who voted, which is double last time. But Black women voted for him at 9%, which is also double from last time, which means two things to me. The vast majority, and I mean tens of millions of Black people, did not vote for Trump. And I really wish these stories would stop being propagated to do this to Black men, painting them as some kind of traitorous monsters. Because what really happened is that turnout in general was higher in this election than the last election overall. So vote increases were proportional to that larger turnout. Both candidates had an increase in voter support because literally more people voted than in 2016. Now, the obvious issue is that people are mad that any Black people at all voted for Trump and are particularly hot about what seems like more Black men voting for Trump than last time. But the mistake seems to be, to me, that people believe that Trump flipped more Black men from voting for Biden. And that doesn't seem to be true. But you know what? Even if it were, we cannot assume that just because more people vote, that those votes will automatically go to the candidate that you want to win. And that is the mistake people always make when we talk about voting and voting trends and who people decide to vote for when they decide to vote. And this is especially true when it comes to marginalized voters. But you know what people rarely ever do when they talk about how many Black men voted for the GOP? They never ask what the Democratic candidate had for them to make those Black men want to vote for the Democratic candidate. And those conversations about how horrible Black men who vote for Republicans are usually come from people who don't actually talk to Black men. And usually they don't actually talk to any Black people at all. And not just about who they vote for, but about the needs that Black people expect to be met by participating in electoral politics at all. Don't want to talk to Black people about what we get for our vote, but always got the analysis about how we voted and the condemnation for us when we don't vote to save you. Can I just be honest right here? It's just true that some Black people are politically conservative. It's just true that some Black people are socially conservative too and will vote for Republicans because of pro-life or small government or tough on crime or whatever the conservative appeal is, because that's what some of them believe in too. Might not be a lot, but we are really not a monolith. And not having a platform that conveys anything that will improve the material conditions of already marginalized people will show not improve your chances of appealing to those folks who didn't like your party in the first place. So there's that. And then these kind of headlines and stories always avoid talking about Black women who support Trump. And I got to ask myself, as a Black lady, why? Why aren't those women traitorous monsters just like we're happy to paint these Black men as? I'm not saying they should be painted that way, but why? Why? We got all this heat for white women voting for Trump, and we should, I guess, but why is anybody still surprised about that? But too many people are loath to finish the sentence and point out that twice as many Black women voted for Trump this time when they're dragging Black men across the floor for the same thing. Either we are going to stop demonizing Black people who support Republican candidates, or we're going to address the issues for why Black people don't support Democrats, the small percentage of them who do. Oh, and speaking of white women who support Trump, even more white women came out to vote for Trump this time, and as did more white people in general. Way more than Black men and women, way more than Latinx people. So the other issue with this stupid minorities have to save America trope is that white people who love fascism and racism and sexism and xenophobia are always let off the hook. The problem is them, folks, not the few Black and brown voters who happen to go along with them. See, this is why I don't do divide and conquer politics crafted by this white supremacist state and its media apparatus. And I don't care if these articles are coming from Black people. The results are the same. And I also don't do this Black women saving everybody from themselves narrative either. We got to stop playing the colonizers' game because they keep winning. And then we keep wondering why we don't ever get anything. And while I'm on my angry little rant about whose fault this ridiculously close election is that didn't have to be this close, do you have a minute to talk about y'all's Lord and Savior Bernie Sanders? Because listen, I get that people want a political platform that appeals to all the people the same across all demographics. And that's, of course, a good strategy. But you also don't get to assume that just because your general policies will help marginalized people, that those people will automatically support you when you don't do a whole heck of a lot to speak directly to the unique issues that those people face, in addition to the general economic issues that are crushing us all. I can't help but remember how I kept telling folks that Sanders should have taken out ads in the South on Black radio stations, and especially Black Christian radio stations, and put boots on the ground in those churches and cookouts and fraternities and sororities and Eastern Star organizations, and made his case to Black voters in the South if he really wanted to show a strong challenge to the Democratic establishment. And I wasn't the only one who said this either. Black staffers inside the Sanders campaign said the same thing and said it for 2 years in a row. But he refused 2 years in a row. And now people who didn't want to have that conversation are saying that Bernie would have won. And yes, that's true. He would have, but he also wouldn't have won without our vote, which he didn't make the case for. Y'all can't keep saying that Black voters are the key to Democratic Party victories or to pushing progressive policies and candidates within that party, but still refuse to talk about how none of you actually want to talk to Black voters and about the things we want and need for those votes. Y'all can talk all day about Latinx outreach, which of course should happen because the issues of our Latinx brothers and sisters are also important. But Black voters are just supposed to fall in line if we know what's good for us. And that, folks, is turning a lot of Black voters off. Sanders did it. Biden did it. Democrats do it. Republicans are openly racist. Sure, of course they are. But this ignoring Black voters because you think we owe you our votes because you're not Republicans, that's tired. Listen, at the end of the day, let them skin folk who feel like they wanted more Trump have it. Enjoy. Democrats, y'all still want to assume Black voters are automatically going to choose you over the GOP just because you're not the GOP? Okay, stay with that. See if you win another national election with that strategy. But for you, for me, organize with your people. Find your people and organize with them. That is the overall strategy for liberation. Always has been. Always will be. Follow Luke Mon Nation on patreon.com/LukeMonNation for lots of great content.